Bonjour, and welcome to the Red Lake Nation College Gikendaasowin podcast, a RLNC community space to discuss topics on culture and language, history, student spotlights, and more. This week in the studio, we have Red Lake Nation College Vice President Mandy Schram sharing technology tips to impress your professors. This episode was recorded on January 24th, 2023. Red Lake Nation College would like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities for their generous support in the creation of this podcast. Miigwech.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Gikendaasowin podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about 10 technology tips to impress your professors. My name is Mandy Schram, and I'm the Vice President of Operations and Academic Affairs here at Red Lake Nation College. And I've been studying and practicing a lot of different technology tools that incorporate into Canvas that can be useful for instructors and students throughout your learning and teaching experiences. So if you want to impress your professors, I'm going to list some tools for you that you can use for multiple purposes. You can also find our podcast on YouTube, and if you look at it on YouTube, I will also provide links to all of the technology tips that I'm talking about today. All right, let's get started. The first technology tool that I want to talk about is called Google Reverse Image Search. You can just type that into Google Reverse Image Search. What you can do here is you can upload photos that maybe you find online. Maybe it's a graph, a chart, something like that, and you want to use it in an assignment or a paper, but you want to make sure that you give credit to the person who created it. So what you can do is upload that photo to Google Reverse Image Search, and it will tell you the source of that photo or chart, or find similar images, something that might relate to the same topic. So this can be really helpful if you do find something that you really want to use, but you have no idea who created it. The second tool, which is very similar to Google Reverse Image Search, is called Google Lens. So I put the Google Lens app on my phone, and what I can do is just take pictures of objects or plants, and Google Lens will identify that object or plant for me. I frequently use it for plants in the summer. I kind of walk around my garden taking pictures of different plants that maybe I'm unable to identify. And it'll tell me, what that plant is, whether it's a weed, whether it's something I may want to keep. Another thing you can use it for is just objects. I don't know if any of you remember an example of an object would be rabbit ears on a TV. Well, those haven't been around for a very long time, and younger people might see them and not have a clue what those are. You can use Google Lens to take a picture of those rabbit ears, and then it'll tell you all about using rabbit ears on your TV in the 1980s. The third tool that I want to talk about is called either Grammarly or Quillbot. Both Grammarly and Quillbot are used for checking spelling, grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure. Quillbot and Grammarly are extensions. You can look at the top of your email or the top of Google Chrome, and you can choose the extensions, and you can see what extensions you have already added. And you can include Quillbot or Grammarly there. Then what happens is that it automatically checks all of your assignments for spelling, grammar, punctuation, and gives you suggestions for restating your sentence, maybe to make it a little bit more clear for your readers or listeners. I highly recommend it, especially if you struggle with writing or with grammar and punctuation. It just takes all of that extra work out of it. And then you don't have to wait for your instructor to identify those mistakes for you. The fourth tool is called Talk to Books. What you can do is you can find passages in books that are related to your topic. So maybe you want to study climate change. You could put climate change into Talk to Books, and it'll identify a lot of different resources that address climate change. But one of my favorite features about this is that you may remember a passage from a book, but you can't remember where it came from. So I can type in "Once Upon a Midnight Dreary," and it'll pull up the author, Edgar Allan Poe, and the piece is called "The Raven." So you can do this. Maybe you remember passages from books when you were a child. You can type that in there and it'll bring up the book that passage comes from. That also helps you when you're citing your sources by providing that resource directly to you. The fifth tool is an APA, or American Psychological Association, drag and drop practice test. So we use APA here when it comes to citations and references in your assignments. And a lot of students just really struggle with it when they first get going. So there are some free practice tests that you can take. And what they do is they put all of the pieces of a reference in random order, and then you drag and drop each piece into the correct order in order to learn how to properly do citations. It's very helpful, and it's a very good refresher, even for people who are pretty good at referencing their sources. The sixth tool is actually multiple tools, but this is your Google Apps. So from your email, you can go up to the right-hand corner, and you will find like a little grid. It's got a bunch of dots in a square. From there, you can get to your Google Drive, Google Docs, Sheets, Sites, Slides, and I'll talk a little bit about what each one of these does. But my first suggestion to you is to organize your Google Drive first. Let's say you have 2 classes this semester. I recommend that you create a folder for each of those classes. And then as you're creating docs, sheets, sites, or slides, that you save those in the respective class, that you'll be submitting those assignments, and that you name those assignments accordingly from the syllabus in that class. The reason for this, it's going to be a lot easier for you to find these assignments again later if you have them categorized within folders for your classes. You may forget what you title them, and if you don't put them in the correct folders, you're going to have a lot harder time finding those documents later. But a little bit about each of those. So Google Docs is very similar to Word. That's really where you're going to be, what you're going to be using to write most of your assignments. And you can share your Google Docs or your assignments straight through Canvas. Secondly is Google Sheets. That's very similar to Excel, where you can create spreadsheets. Google Sites is very similar to Wix or your ePortfolios, where you're basically creating a website. And it's pretty fun. It can be pretty interactive, and there's a lot of different features that you can add to Google Sites. So even if you don't have a practical use for it in your classes, it can be a really fun thing to experiment with. And lastly is Google Slides. And this is very similar to PowerPoint, so you can use it in very much the same way. The seventh tool that I want to talk about is a video capturing tool. Now, there's 2 that I will mention. The first one is Canvas Studio. All students and faculty have access to Canvas Studio right through the Canvas LMS. Once you log into Canvas, you will see a navigation bar on the left, and you will see Canvas Studio there. From there, you can create videos. You can create screen capture videos. You can also record podcasts straight from Canvas Studio. Once you do that, those will remain in your Canvas account. And when you want to upload them as an assignment from the toolbar, in your upload, you'll be able to select Canvas Studio and then just select the video that you created. It's very simple, and it's a very nice way to store any videos or podcasts that you create. It's also a really great tool for faculty. Faculty members can actually upload a video into Canvas Studio, maybe even directly from YouTube, and then create stop points throughout the video, like every couple minutes, and ask questions. And then it can be turned into a quiz and embedded in a quiz within Canvas. So it can be a video quiz with multiple questions that can be answered by the students. Another option, if you didn't want to use Canva Studio, is Screencast-o-matic. This is a free tool. You can just Google Screencast-o-matic, and you can create up to 15 minutes of a video, a screen capture video, a podcast. The problem with Screencast-o-matic from the free version is that you aren't going to get to edit it. So you have 15 minutes, and you pretty much have to be well prepared and know what you're going to say, because you're not going to be able to go back and edit it later. You would pretty much have to redo it. But it is a great tool to share with other people. They may not be aware that something like that exists, but it's very simple and free. The 8th tool that I would like to discuss is Prezi. So Prezi is a presentation software. However, it's much more interactive than like a PowerPoint or a slide. So from Prezi, it goes in and out. It can make you kind of dizzy if you do it too fast. So if you do make a Prezi, pace yourself. So an example of a Prezi that I made in the past would be somebody climbing a mountain, and in the process of climbing a mountain, there's multiple steps and stop points. And so it might hone in on the first stop point of climbing the mountain and discuss the progress that's made and what we're looking forward to in the future. And then the next stop point on the mountain might talk about, what have we accomplished at this point and what comes next. And so there's templates provided through Prezi. You don't have to create your own. You can just put your own content within those templates in Prezi. And again, that one is also free. The 9th tool I would like to talk about is basically infographics as a whole. There's a lot of free tools out there to create your own infographics. Infographics can be very visually appealing. They can present a lot of information in a small space. So some examples of this would be Postermywall. You can make flyers, social media posts, brochures, things like that, right from many, many templates that have already been provided for you. Some other free versions would be, there's a free version of Piktochart, which is also full of infographics. And Canva is another one that has a free version that you can utilize. And finally, the 10th tool, which is actually a couple different tools that I would like to talk about. The first one is Padlet. So what Padlet is a virtual bulletin board. So you might create a Padlet where you ask a question and then you share it with multiple people and they put their answers in there. So it's almost as if they're posting their response to your question on a bulletin board. And so it shows each person that's commented. It's a great way to store a bunch of information on a topic at one place from multiple different people. And it can be pretty fun to use. So I encourage you to explore it. Something similar is called Popplet. Popplet is actually a tool in which you can create mind maps. Let's say that you're really focused on a topic and you have all kinds of ideas going on in your head about what you want to say about that topic. You could create a Popplet where you kind of get all of that information into different thought bubbles. You can embed videos in there, maybe related to your topic, and you can kind of design it. You can also invite people to collaborate on the Popplet with you. So those are the 10 tools that I wanted to bring to your attention today. And again, you will be able to find links to all of these on our YouTube video. And if any of you ever have any questions or would like to learn a little bit more about these tools, you can feel free to contact me. Again, my name is Mandy Schram, and my office is located on the 2nd floor. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you'll join us again next week.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please give us a thumbs up and follow us for more content. A special miigwech to the following for their efforts in the creation of this Red Lake Nation College Gikendaasowin podcast episode. Opening music by RLNC Director of Equity, Cultural Education and Archives, Floyd Buck-Jourdain. Opening introduction and closing by RLNC student Nanukazi Rebecca Peterson. Our host this week, RLNC Vice President of Operations and Academics, Mandy Schram. Production by RLNC IT Director, Josh Nelson. And a special thanks to the National Endowment for the Humanities for their generous support. Gigawabamin Minowa. And we'll see you next week.